What if I told you the Bible doesn't describe dogs as loyal companions, but as symbols of shame, judgment, and even exclusion from eternity? In one prophecy, dogs were sent to devour a queen. In another, they licked the blood of a fallen king. And in the final book of the Bible, they are found outside the gates of the holy city. Why? Why are dogs almost always linked to disgrace, death, and warning in Scripture? And what does that symbolism really mean? This is the dark secret behind dogs in the Bible, and most people have never noticed it. In ancient Israel, dogs were very different from the pets we know today. They were mostly wild scavengers, roaming the streets, deserts, and marketplaces, surviving by whatever they could find. They were not companions or family members. Instead, they were feared for their ferocity and unclean habits. These animals were closely associated with filth, death, and public disgrace, often seen eating waste or even corpses left outside the city gates. Because of this, the cultural view of dogs was almost entirely negative. Unlike the modern world, where dogs symbolize loyalty and friendship, ancient Israelites saw them as symbols of danger and moral decay. They were creatures of survival, sometimes vicious, sometimes cunning, and often unpredictable. In biblical texts, references to dogs rarely describe them by name or breed. Instead, they appear as silent witnesses to human failure or divine judgment, quietly reinforcing the social and spiritual order. But here's where the mystery deepens. Scripture consistently portrays dogs not just as animals, but as instruments of divine justice. From prophecies to historical narratives, dogs appear in moments of shame, judgment, or moral consequence. They devour the bodies of the wicked, lick the blood of the fallen, or even show rare moments of mercy where humans fail. This recurring pattern suggests that dogs in the Bible are more than mere animals. They may symbolize a bridge between the natural world and the divine, an unexpected messenger carrying out God's will. Even today, we might glance over these references without noticing the pattern. Yet when we examine the texts closely, the role of dogs in Scripture forms a subtle but powerful thread, linking justice, shame, mercy, and prophecy. So, the real question is, why does the Bible choose these seemingly lowly, unclean animals to convey some of its most intense moments of judgment and warning? Are they mere coincidence? Or is there a deeper symbolic purpose behind every appearance? Every mention of a dog in Scripture carries weight. And if we understand it, we see a story hidden in plain sight, one that challenges our modern assumptions about loyalty, morality, and the unseen forces shaping biblical history. Jezebel, the infamous queen of ancient Israel, is remembered as one of the Bible's most notorious figures. Her story is not just one of power and rebellion, but also of divine judgment, a judgment so chilling that it involved dogs. According to the prophecy spoken by Elijah, Jezebel's end would be neither ordinary nor private. Her body would be devoured by dogs, leaving only her skull, feet, and hands. This prophecy was fulfilled exactly as predicted. Soldiers pushed her body from a palace window, and the wild dogs of the region consumed her flesh. Yet, the remnants, the skull, feet, and hands, were left untouched, creating a scene that was both symbolic and terrifying. In the culture of that time, this was the ultimate public humiliation. Death by dogs was considered one of the most disgraceful fates possible, a mark of shame that would echo throughout history. But why dogs? Why not human executioners? The answer may lie in symbolism. In the Bible, dogs are often linked to shame, destruction, and divine retribution. Unlike humans, they are impartial, untamed, and instinct-driven, acting as agents of God's judgment rather than participants in human revenge. Their wild nature emphasizes that Jezebel's punishment was not just personal or political. It was spiritual and cosmic, a warning to all who defied divine authority. Moreover, dogs as instruments of prophecy create a dramatic narrative tension. Their presence is unsettling, reminding us that God can use even the most unexpected creatures to carry out His will. In this way, the story of Jezebel challenges modern assumptions about justice. It is not always neat, orderly, or human-centered. The image of dogs consuming a queen's body forces us to consider a deeper truth. In Scripture, seemingly lowly or unclean animals can become instruments of divine authority. They act as silent enforcers of prophecy, visible in the natural world, but carrying a supernatural weight. So the haunting question remains: why were dogs chosen to execute this judgment instead of humans? Was it merely to amplify the horror and shame, or was there a deeper symbolic purpose hidden within every action of Scripture? In the story of Jezebel, the Bible leaves us with a lesson that is as shocking as it is unforgettable. Hidden in plain sight, waiting for those who look closely. After King Ahab's death, the Bible records a haunting and unforgettable scene. His body, fallen in battle, was left to be licked by dogs, fulfilling a chilling prophecy. Unlike most accounts of death in Scripture, this one includes an animal, not a person, as the central agent of judgment. This detail is not incidental. It is symbolic, terrifying, and deeply mysterious. Dogs in ancient Israel were commonly seen as scavengers, but here they play a role that is far more than natural. They become instruments of divine justice, carrying out a prophecy that underscores the seriousness of Ahab's sins. The licking of blood is both a literal act and a spiritual message. It is a mark of disgrace, a public announcement that no earthly power could shield him from judgment. Even in death, Ahab could not escape the consequences of his actions, and the dogs, instinctive and impartial, ensured that prophecy was fulfilled exactly. This scene forces us to reconsider how animals function in Scripture. While humans often fail to recognize or act upon moral truths, dogs in the Bible sometimes see and execute what humans cannot. Their actions are immediate, precise, and chillingly predictable, almost as if guided by an unseen hand. In this way, they are both natural creatures and divine instruments, bridging the physical and spiritual worlds in a way that leaves the observer uneasy and reflective. Furthermore, the narrative highlights the recurring symbolism of dogs in the Bible. From devouring a queen to licking the blood of a fallen king, dogs appear at moments of judgment, shame, and divine authority. Their presence is unsettling because it contrasts with modern perceptions of dogs as loyal companions. In Scripture, they are wild, unclean, and capable of enacting prophecy, a living reminder that divine justice can be enacted through the most unexpected means. This story also raises a profound question. Why are dogs used repeatedly to symbolize judgment, humiliation, and even moral correction? Are they simply part of the natural world, or are they deliberately highlighted by the biblical authors to convey a deeper spiritual truth? The Bible's subtle but consistent use of dogs as instruments of prophecy and shame suggests intentional design, encouraging readers to look beyond the surface. King Ahab's death, consumed and marked by dogs, is more than a historical account. It is a window into the mysterious ways the divine interacts with the natural world, a reminder that judgment can come through both human and animal agents. It challenges modern assumptions, leaving us to wonder, are dogs in Scripture just animals? Or are they silent messengers carrying a divine warning that few notice? In the parable of Lazarus, one of the Bible's most overlooked stories about animals unfolds quietly, yet its message is striking. Lazarus, a poor man covered in sores, lay at the gate of a wealthy man, ignored by society and abandoned by human hands. But the Bible notes a curious detail. Dogs came and licked his wounds. At first glance, this may seem incidental, almost trivial. After all, dogs were considered unclean scavengers in Jewish culture, yet their actions are deeply symbolic. Unlike the wealthy man, whose comfort and security shielded him from suffering, the dogs responded instinctively, offering a form of care and attention. They were the only beings to show compassion to Lazarus, a man society had forgotten. This moment challenges everything we assume about dogs in Scripture. Previously, we've seen them associated with judgment, shame, and prophecy, often acting as instruments of divine punishment. Yet here, these same creatures become symbols of mercy, providing what humans failed to offer. The paradox is stark. The Bible's unclean animals demonstrate the only kindness in a harsh world, revealing that even in their wildness, they can mirror divine compassion. The story also raises a deeper question about observation and perception. Dogs notice suffering humans that others ignore. In many biblical narratives, animals perceive truth and act according to divine design. Could these dogs, in their quiet, instinctive acts, represent a subtle commentary on humanity's moral failings? Or are they a symbol that God's care extends even through seemingly ordinary creatures? Additionally, this account invites reflection on societal blindness. The wealthy man, surrounded by luxury, could not see Lazarus's pain. Yet the dogs, guided by instinct, saw clearly. In doing so, they fulfill a narrative role that extends beyond literal events. They are a mirror for our moral awareness, silently highlighting who receives mercy and who is left in neglect. Ultimately, the story of Lazarus reminds us that in Scripture, animals are more than background details. Even creatures deemed unclean can serve as instruments of teaching, revelation, and compassion. Their unexpected role leaves a lingering question for viewers. In the stories of the Bible, who or what truly sees the truth and acts upon it? In this single quiet act of licking sores, dogs teach us a profound lesson. Mercy sometimes comes from the most unlikely sources. And perhaps, in their actions, we are meant to see a reflection of divine care hidden in plain sight. Jesus' teachings are filled with parables, metaphors, and profound truths, but one statement often stands out and confuses many readers. Do not give what is holy to dogs. Matthew 7:6. On the surface, it seems harsh, even puzzling. Why would Jesus use dogs, creatures already considered unclean, in a spiritual warning? To understand this, we need to step into the world of ancient Israel. Dogs were wild scavengers, frequently associated with shame, judgment, and impurity. They were rarely pets, often roaming the streets or deserts, and sometimes scavenging on the dead. In using dogs as a metaphor, Jesus was drawing on a cultural understanding his audience would immediately recognize. These were creatures outside the fold of human morality, instinctive and indifferent to sacred things. But there's a deeper, hidden layer to his words. By saying, "Do not give what is holy to dogs," Jesus warns about sharing sacred truths with those who will not recognize, respect, or understand them. It is not a literal condemnation of animals, but a metaphorical lesson about discernment. Just as a dog cannot comprehend or value what is holy, some people may reject or defile what is sacred, whether through mockery, ignorance, or hostility. This statement also echoes a recurring theme in Scripture: dogs as symbols of exclusion and judgment. From devouring the flesh of a queen to licking the blood of a fallen king, dogs act as instruments of divine or moral order. Jesus' metaphor continues that tradition, using an animal associated with both fear and shame to communicate spiritual reality. Yet the choice of dogs is not random. The Bible's repeated use of dogs in judgment and teaching creates a pattern of symbolism. From Old Testament prophecies to New Testament lessons, dogs are positioned as witnesses, enforcers, and symbols of moral consequences. Their presence bridges the natural and spiritual worlds, reminding the audience that divine order can operate through both humans and animals. The mystery remains compelling. Why does Scripture consistently rely on these creatures to deliver messages of judgment, warning, or insight? What does it say about perception, morality, and divine design? Jesus' words challenge us to look beyond the surface. The metaphor of dogs teaches discernment, awareness, and respect for what is sacred. And, for viewers paying close attention, it reveals a hidden thread connecting animals, prophecy, and morality across the pages of Scripture. A thread that turns even the lowliest of creatures into silent teachers of profound truth. The Bible begins with serpents and ends with dogs. In the final book, Revelation, we are told that outside are the dogs, a chilling image that immediately captures attention. But why would dogs, creatures often seen as lowly and unclean, appear in the ultimate vision of the end times? And what does it mean for the symbolic role of animals in Scripture? To understand, we must consider the broader biblical pattern. Dogs in the Old Testament appear during moments of judgment, shame, and prophetic fulfillment, from devouring a queen's body to licking a fallen king's blood. In the New Testament, Jesus uses dogs as metaphors for exclusion, warning, and discernment. Revelation continues this theme, placing dogs outside the gates of the holy city, symbolizing those excluded from salvation. They are not there to attack or protect. They are a visible sign of what is denied and cast away, a warning and a consequence wrapped in one. This raises a profound question. Why does Scripture choose dogs for such pivotal symbolic roles? Unlike humans, dogs act instinctively, without the moral ambiguity that clouds human judgment. They observe, respond, and fulfill, whether through literal or metaphorical actions. Their consistent presence at moments of divine justice suggests intentional design. The biblical authors are not merely describing animals. They are conveying spiritual truth through natural symbols. Moreover, the presence of dogs in Revelation connects the very beginning of the Bible with its end. The serpent in Genesis brought temptation and sin. Dogs appear at the conclusion, marking shame, exclusion, and divine order. This literary symmetry suggests that animals are more than background details. They are active participants in God's plan, teaching lessons that humans often fail to see. In a sense, dogs serve as silent judges, witnesses, and enforcers of divine authority, visible yet often overlooked. Their role challenges modern perceptions of morality, loyalty, and symbolism, forcing us to ask uncomfortable questions. Can animals be instruments of justice? Can they carry spiritual significance? For viewers, this image of dogs outside the gates is both terrifying and instructive. It reminds us that God's plan unfolds in ways beyond human expectation, using even the lowliest creatures to convey profound truths. In Scripture, dogs are not merely animals. They are messengers, teachers, and symbols of divine judgment, silently narrating a story that spans the entire Bible, from Genesis to Revelation. When we step back and look at the full pattern, something remarkable begins to emerge. Dogs in Scripture are never random details. They appear at moments of judgment, at scenes of public disgrace, and even in teachings about spiritual discernment. They devour the wicked queen. They lick the blood of a fallen king. They stand as metaphors in the words of Jesus. And in Revelation, they are positioned outside the gates of eternity. But here's the deeper insight most people miss. Dogs represent what is outside the covenant order. In ancient Israel, to be compared to a dog meant exclusion, shame, and separation. Dogs lived outside cities, outside homes, outside ritual purity. So when Scripture uses dogs symbolically, it is often pointing to something or someone that exists outside divine protection or blessing. And yet, there is a surprising tension in the story of Lazarus. The only comfort he received came from dogs. The unclean creatures showed compassion when humans did not. That paradox is the key. Dogs in the Bible represent both judgment and contrast. They expose hypocrisy. They highlight moral failure. They enforce prophecy. But they also reveal when humanity has fallen so far that even wild animals reflect more mercy than people. This is not about animals being evil or holy. It is about symbolism. Throughout Scripture, God uses unexpected things, storms, ravens, donkeys, and yes, andasata, to communicate deeper truths. Dogs become living metaphors of consequence, exclusion, humility, and sometimes uncomfortable revelation. And that changes how we read the text. Next time you see a dog mentioned in the Bible, pause. Ask yourself, is this just an animal in the background? Or is this a symbol pointing to something deeper, a warning, a judgment, or even a mirror reflecting human behavior? Because once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. And that may be the real mystery hidden in plain sight. So the next time you see a dog mentioned in the Bible, don't just see an animal. Look for the pattern, look for the warning, look for the hidden meaning. If this changed how you read Scripture, comment below and tell me where you're watching from. And subscribe, because the next mystery might be hiding in plain sight.